We are live with Taberne Talks, another episode.
All right.
Welcome back. I'm glad everybody's here, and you're joining me for a very special guest here. I say that every week, but I mean it this time. All right, I do. It's like a very special guest every week, but this time I mean it. This guy has been around the block. He's been with me. I know him personally. I've done business with him. I've done business with his team. So you're going to really get some nuggets on this one. I'm going to try to change it up a little bit this time and ask some things that are really specific to the market. I think we've been really generic on neighborhoods and things like that, but I really want to try to get to the front line now of what's going on in this current market, because it seems like there's a lot of panic that I hear from loan officers and from realtors that are worried about what they're walking into in 2024. Are they going to have a job? Are they going to, be able to prosper like they did in the past? Only guys like this can tell us, right? Because they've been on the front line. They are on the front line. They know what's going on. So Tory Schroff, the Schroff Group, right? Morristown, I guess, is really his backyard.
Morristown is my backyard. I live in Mount Laurel. So.
Okay, lives in Mount Laurel. Morristown is where the office is, maybe, right?
Yep, on Main Street.
Main Street, Morristown, right? So he knows his New Jersey stuff. I haven't had too many Jersey realtors on, so this will be a treat for us, because it's been, primarily the Philly market, because everybody wants to know what's going on over here. But, the Jersey market's a different animal.
We're welcoming the viewers to the dark side.
There we go, right? We finally have brought the guy on that could give us that dark side. So take it away. Just give us some background on you, on when you started, what got you into this business, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, my name is Tory Schroff, team leader of the Schroff Group, hometown real estate group in Morristown. Been in the business since 2017, so basically on my 7th year here. And it's kind of an interesting story, because getting into the business actually came and started from the mortgage business.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that or not.
I didn't know that.
I think we've discussed that before.
Really?
I won't name any names of where I was from in the mortgage business.
I have an idea. All right, but I'm going to leave it there, too.
Yeah.
I won't touch it.
Wasn't the best company to work for, if you ask me, in my opinion.
And you were a processor or loan officer there?
So I was a loan officer there, but the way that business worked is they were a large servicer.
That's what I mean. So it's like an inbound, right?
Yeah. So, basically, when we first started, it was inbound. They started to get it, pushing us towards outbound. But basically, we were working their own portfolio. It was a refi shop. So they would take in large pools of loans, and they were loans that they could get on the cheap, because a lot of these loans were in need of refinancing.
Yeah.
So these loans, they knew we're going to fall out.
Sure.
So we would come in, refinance them down, and then either hold them
So it's
as a package.
basically like a lay down.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Or resell it.
Right. Resell.
Is basically what they would do.
Yeah.
But, in that business, especially in that line of this business, it's a call center. You're sitting in one spot all day. They gave us 15 minutes to walk around once every 4 hours.
I've been there. I know.
Yeah, I couldn't look at the same ceiling fan all day, every day. I was like, this can't be my life, for the rest of my life.
No matter what the money is.
Yeah, so
so
it pushed me into the real estate business, and, I'm thankful for that, and,
he's been through, if you look at what this guy's done, he's been through, I started working with him, I think in 18 maybe. We had moved to Broad and Lombard. We had an office on Passyunk Ave, and then we moved over to Broad and Lombard, and then we started hooking up with Tory himself through a title company contact that I had. Thank you, George Duffield. I'll give you a bump there. All right, so we
good people.
Good people. Very good guy. So we started working with Tory. He was a local guy. We knew that we wanted to be with him. He was young, sharp, and he seemed like he knew what he was doing, which he did, because he already had that background in mortgages, which helps you in this business, give you that boost to get going, right? So
yeah, definitely.
So now he's here. We're in 2024. I'm not going to go through all the pandemic sets, because I go through that every week, and it feels like, we all know what happened in the pandemic, right? So let's not even go there. Let's just go to what's going on now. Because I just get asked constantly every day, Alex, what's your feelings? And And my question to you is the worst behind us, right? So this is the biggest question I get. Like, do we feel that we've seen the bottom? We're in December of 2024. We've been through a tough year. Is the worst behind us?
Well, to put it in perspective, it's a little bit of a loaded question, if you ask me, because
And I can see that look in your face. It is a loaded question. So you think about that a minute.
Well, the one thing I always tell my clients is nobody has the magic ball. And if someone, is sitting there and telling you this is what's going to happen, we know this is what's going to happen, they're a scam artist, they're a liar.
I agree.
They're not being honest with you.
I agree.
Because the true honest question, or not question, but the honest answer of that is we don't know. No one can really tell you if it's going to get worse or it's going to get better. What we can tell you is what's happening and what it feels like is happening. So the best way to put that is inventory is still terrible.
Okay.
There's just nothing out there.
And that's the truth. He's not lying now, because I think that's a common theme that we're hearing, that this inventory is terrible. And I ask guys like this every week, how's the inventory? And they tell me the same thing.
Yeah. So there's nothing out there for people to buy. You've got pent up demand. You've got a little bit lower demand right now because of the interest rates. But because the inventory is so bad, it doesn't really matter. There's still not enough houses to go around. At the end of the day, there's always going to be some people who need to move, or some people who have a very, very burning desire to move.
And what are you seeing right now? The only people that are actually are raising their hand and saying, I want to move, are the people that need to move?
Mostly. Either they need to move, or their situation is they hate it so bad that they really, really want to make a move.
So they hate where they're at.
Yeah.
Right. They're sick of it.
And then there's obviously first-time buyers who understand, like, the only way through this is to get in and jump in, because
It's funny you say first-time buyers, because you deal with a huge portion of first-time buyers, because he's a young guy. He sees first-time buyers. He deals with a lot of them. Right?
And they're struggling. I feel for them.
Like, take us into the mind of what they're feeling right now, because I think a lot of people who are watching this show this week are going to say, I'm a first-time buyer. What's a guy like Tori think that I should be thinking right now, or what's going through my mind to psychologically get through this market?
Well, I can tell you this much, because I'm not a first-time buyer, but I was a buyer. I actually bought about 5 months ago the house that I'm going to live in. From that standpoint, it's this. I personally believe that maybe we'll see a small reduction in prices when things start to fall apart with the overall general market, not the housing market, but the general market in 2024. We might see like a little bit of price reduction, just because less jobs, banks might be less willing to lend. But at the end of the day, as soon as they start dropping rates, as soon as things start changing, you're going to see prices continue to go up. I mean, you're talking about high inflation. We're in an inflationary period right now. There's no escaping it. Basically, it feels like the forces above us are trying to push us into a renter's economy.
Sure.
So as a first-time buyer, if you are thinking of buying and it's the right time for you, it's the right thing for your family, then I say go for it, because at the end of the day, I do believe real estate in the next 10, 20, 30 years is going to be significantly more expensive than it is now.
Higher. Sure. Appreciation is going to continue to go up, as you know, and there's going to be bidding wars that'll be coming back, as you know.
But not only that, once you're in the game, you're in the game.
You're in a game.
You start building that equity. So you see that appreciation, you're paying down your loan. And, let's say you have a 10-year timetable or a 5-year timetable. Let's say that those prices do go up. Well, now that house that you bought 5 years ago is worth $50,000 to $70,000 more. Well, that's a nice large piece of equity to put down on your next house if you want to.
Right.
Or you might have developed such a space where the rent prices have gone up, and now you've got a great margin on that property.
Yeah.
Now you find yourself as a landlord. But as a first-time home buyer, one of the most important things to keep in mind is, what is your exit strategy? What's your plan? What's your timetable? What's your timeline? If things go against you, what's your goals? How are you going to handle that time?
I mean,
You need to answer those
it's no
questions.
longer just I'm buying a house, right?
Yeah.
It used to be, oh, I'm a first time buyer. I just want to buy a house. I saw that all the time. Right now, you really do have to have some type of strategy in order to say, this is why I'm buying this house, and this is my exit plan, like Tori said, and what's my next move. You're really going to be thinking of the next move, unless you say I'm going to live in this house forever. Which, what are the chances?
But that is a move.
Right,
When
it is a move.
when that is a
Sure,
move. Your
sure.
timeline then is 30 years. If your
I mean, but
timeline's 30 years, then I say buy
how much does that
100% of the
happen now?
time.
I mean, does that really happen where somebody one and done, forever? I mean, you find that in the old days, I feel like.
Yeah, I was going to say, ask my parents. They,
Right.
they still have the house I grew up
You
in.
don't find that in 2024. You find people want to move. It's like a lease, right? They lease a car for 3 or 4 years and then they get tired of it. And
Well,
they're like,
I think they
you know
say-
what, I got to move to a new house now.
Yeah, I think they say what's the average? The average American
years.
moves every 5 to 7 years.
5 to 7 years.
And that's somewhat proved to be true
Yeah.
because as you hit that 4, 5, 6 year mark in the business, you start seeing things turn
Yeah.
over a lot more.
Yeah.
People that you've worked with calling you back and doing it all over again. So,
And that's the beauty of it, is that if you take care of your people, which I know is tough in this market, I feel it. Listen, I'm going to go off the tangent here. These are not easy deals to close, right? I work really hard to get every deal to close. And they're not there's conditions that are being asked for that you might not want to give. There's conditions that are being asked for that you can't give, right? Because it's not possible, and the underwriter's asking for that, in the back end. I'm seeing a lot of things where, it's not the easiest thing to get these deals to closing. Tori and me and the other guys that I've had on for the last 5 weeks, you got to be a team here, man. I mean, you have to really, everybody's got to chip in. I mean, me and him are on the phone how many times on one deal? I mean,
at least it's
true.
fun. They're
It's
fun conversations.
Yeah, well,
creativity is key.
right, we have fun, right? Because if you don't make it fun, you'll be ripping each other's heads off, yelling at each other. So it's not easy. And then you got to nurture that relationship after closing and try to stay in contact with these people because you want to make sure that they come back to you because you put a lot of work in up front in order to help them out, right? So,
Absolutely. That's really what it's all about.
right. So
At the end of the day.
all right. So true or false, rising rates means more inventory.
I would say no. I would say the opposite. I think rising rates means less inventory. You've got people who are, they're already locked in at 2.875, 3%, 3.25%. It's really hard to convince those people to sell their house and then take a higher rate. But I do think lower rates does mean rising inventory.
We know, right? Yes.
So if we see that coming in 2024, which apparently is the prediction, we'll see what happens. I think we'll see at least a little bit of a cut.
Now, somebody told me, and I took a note
there.
for myself. November, they said there was an uptick in listings over the last couple of weeks. Do you feel that or no?
Well, it's certainly been true for me, so I guess that's the case.
So you've had a few new listings over the last couple of weeks hit out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Due to maybe these rates coming down a little bit.
It very well could be. Sometimes it's hard to really say what a reason is or what a reason isn't. We like to really dig into the analytics and think we can fully understand it, but sometimes it's just what happens. But I do think when we saw that rate drop, it definitely got some ears perked, which is a great indicator of the pent-up demand that's really there. There's a lot of people sitting on the sidelines just waiting for their opportunity. That's a real thing.
I mean, the 10-year Treasury went to 4.20.
Yeah.
If you don't realize, the 10-year Treasury was at 5.20.
Yeah, it
was higher. I mean, it didn't go to 5.2. I'm wrong. It went to close to 5 or a little bit over, and then it came back down now into the low 4s. Me and Tori, we're two 10-year guys, right? So we hang on that 10-year constantly. Whenever I want to check the 10-year, I can text him, and he can text me and say, what's going on in the 10-year? Right. So, and he's the only
regular conversation.
He's one of the only realtors that I can talk to about the 10-year. I hate to say that, but if you're in the industry, and I'm teaching my newer loan officers that I'm trying to bring on, or one that I've just brought on, which you'll meet soon, the 10-year Treasury is what you got to follow, guys. No, it's not 100% what's going to happen with the interest rates, but it's directly tied to the long-term interest rates, right? The 30-year fixed is tied to that 10-year. If the 10-year goes down, the rates go down. If the 10 years goes up, the rates are most likely going to go up. It's very rare that you see the 10-year go down and the rates not go down right behind it.
Yeah.
Right. So,
or if it does, at least it's a good indicator that it will
correct.
go in that direction.
What you know, that it's going to be going that direction. Yeah. So if you have a good advisor, which I say in this market, you need an advisor. After 25 years, I learned that. Like, I'm getting a lot of weird looks nowadays by people saying, you're advising, Alex, you're a loan officer. No, you got to be an advisor nowadays. You have to follow that 10-year. You have to tell people what's going on. You have to be honest with them, and you have to tell them the truth. I think the rates are going to go down this week because I've been seeing the 10-year go down every day, and I feel that we will get a change for the better. Or no, you got to bring them the bad news. I see the 10-year going up a little bit. I think, right, that's what we did with his personal house.
When it first started, well, I'm even thinking back before that when the Fed actually first started pushing the rates up and we started seeing those rates go up. It was just like, I think it's going to go down, and then
it was painful.
It keeps going up.
It was painful.
It was
hard
to watch.
I couldn't catch it, right? So, as my job is to try to, lessen the pain of every client that I have, especially personal realtors that I know and we've hung out with on personal basis. You really want to try to take care of them. The problem is when the 10-year shoots up so fast, day by day, minute by minute, it felt like sometimes 2 or 3 times in one day.
It was quick.
We kind of gambled, right, to say, well, this is just crazy. Why would it go up this fast? It's got to come back down.
And as we've talked about before too, there's no crystal ball. There's no way for anybody to know
and you get burned.
Exactly what's going to happen.
You get burned.
You try to make educated guesses, and
yeah,
that's really all it's about.
Yeah. So listen, let's go to the all-important question. Because I know this is what every realtor wants to hear. Although I'm a loan officer, I'm going to help you guys out by asking an important question to help you, because it's not only about us and first-time buyers and all that stuff. It's about these guys too, because these are the guys that feed us. So, how do you get a listing in this market when there's no listings? What do you do? What do you do to get a listing in this market when there's no listings?
So that's an interesting question. So.
I'm sure you have an interesting answer.
Well, the easiest answer for that is be in the business for 5 years plus.
Okay, well, that's a good answer. I like that answer.
If you've been in the business, obviously it's a lot easier in this market. I really feel for those people who are just getting started. It's a much harder game to play as a beginner in this market than someone who's already been playing the game for long enough. And that's unfortunately an advantage that we're going to have. Okay. But if I was to take somebody who is just starting out and kind of give them the advice, it really comes down to two answers: marketing and hard work.
Okay.
Marketing and hard work. You're not going to get the listings if you're not seen. So you have to find a way to get your name out there. How to get your name out there?
You like branding and stuff like that, you mean?
Yeah, branding, marketing,
right.
All of that.
Okay. How do you do that?
How do you do that?
Where do I start?
The simplest way is social media. I mean, without a doubt, no doubt about it. We live in the digital age. That's where the eyes are. So, one of the things that a lot of realtors at the very beginning have a hard time doing is posting about real estate and talking about it with their friends. All that kind of stuff, because they feel like they're redundant, or they feel like, maybe I don't feel cool doing this or this or that. You just got to do it. You can't be afraid to do it, and you got to do it, and you got to post. And honestly, I could take my own advice on this one.
You saying that you're being a realtor is not cool. I think that's cool.
Well, I do think it's cool personally,
it's cool.
But when you're just starting off,
I'm a loan officer, that sounds more geeky than a realtor, right? So,
but
whatever.
But when you're first starting off, it can be hard. It can be daunting to start feeling like, hey, like I want to, have people around me see me posting these business posts all the time.
Cool.
Especially if you don't really feel like a market professional at the very beginning. But you got to do it. You got to get the eyes on there. You got to get seen. So you definitely have to hammer it. I could take my own advice on this, but I think you should be at least posting on social media 3 times a week, at least.
A week?
Okay. At least.
Okay.
And I get a little bit.
I thought
sloppy
you were going to
with
say
it.
a day. That's why
a day. I mean, even I said at least.
Right.
At
That's
least.
like bare minimum.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
okay. I believe you. I mean, I think
when I think
it should be
about
once a day at least.
Yeah, and when I think about my market competitors, the people who are bigger than me, the people that do more business than me, like you can really even see it like flat out that they're posting 2 or 3 times a day, as you
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
Which, as I was saying, I could take my own advice a little bit, but thankfully I've been in the business long enough that I'm a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah. How
So
about this
that
question? How
helps.
much should I invest in if I'm a new realtor or even a new loan officer, which I can answer on my side? How much should you invest? You should go all in. And sometimes that's hard to say when you
Yeah.
have bills to pay, right? I mean, you got to take care
You
of
can't
people.
dip your toes
You
in the
can't.
water. If you're gonna get, especially in this market, if you're gonna get into this market and you're gonna play the game, you got to play the game.
You got to go all in then.
Yeah.
As far as investing money into your name,
Yeah.
which you may have to take a hit in the beginning in order to make your money back.
Yeah, yeah, and it's actually interesting because adaptability is key too. As you know, we've had marketing spends together that
And we
at
lost
the
money
beginning
on.
were very
Yeah.
profitable and they changed, and now we're adapting. So now we're looking at different places to put our money.
Sure.
And one of the things I'm thinking might be the new move into the near future is more things in the local community that are actually tangible,
Yeah.
like a sign in your grocery store, or like a billboard, or
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a stand in your local CVS or something like that. And your brand awareness in your local area, even though it's not going to give you leads instantaneously, that fame, that prestige builds over time.
Yeah. What do you think about mailings?
What do I think about mailings? I think they can very well work as long as you're willing to commit to them. You got to commit to them. You can't just send one
Yeah.
mailer and think it's going to work. You
Right.
gotta you got to be consistent with it. Like, let's say you're going to target a neighborhood. If you're going to target a neighborhood and you're going to try and be that neighborhood professional, you got to be hitting those people at least once a month for
Yeah.
at least a year. So you got to commit to at least 12 mailings, before you think you're going to start getting listings from it. So these are
it's
long
it's
term
another
games.
investment.
Yeah, they're not going to be your fast results. They're not going to be your quick answers. And that's where brand awareness is great, is for your longevity. But obviously, if we're going back to the idea that we're talking to somebody who's brand new in the business, that longevity isn't going to help you at the very beginning to start putting some money in your pocket. So that's where the hard work comes in.
Right. And you're not going to get it. Like if you're starting new in the business, you're not going to get a deal the first month you come out, unless it's from your aunt, your sister, or your brother.
Yeah.
Right? You get your family in the beginning. You feel all good. I've done that.
Yeah.
I've closed my, whoever, anybody in my family. I'm like, I close all these deals, right? And the next thing you know, you're like, everybody's closed. You got no more family to close.
Yeah.
And then you're like, who's next? And then
Yeah.
there's nobody.
Yeah.
Because you didn't market.
As a newcomer, I would say you got to hit the phones, maybe even door knock. Call all your relatives, call all your friends. Just say hi. It's been a while since we spoke. I wanted to let you know I'm a realtor now. If you need anything, let me know. Help you buy and sell. Write handwritten notes. Hit them too. And then even invest in something like RedX. Call neighborhoods. Call people just, whenever you do have a listing, or a team member of yours has a listing, or someone in your brokerage has a listing and they're willing to help you with it. Just be like, look, my brokerage has this listing. We're trying to sell it. We're trying to find a buyer for it. Do you know anybody in the area? There's also low inventory. Is there any idea that you might want to sell? Do you know anybody who might want to sell? And, you just really have to start conversations with people and see where it goes from there. Because, it might take 200, 300 calls, but that 200, 300 calls could take one day, and you might have 5 good conversations, then maybe one turns into a lead.
I'm hearing a lot of people doing cold calling nowadays, back to the old school of calling 100 and 200 people a day, which is what we used to do even as loan officers back in 2005. Which is...
It's not fun.
Terrible,
It's basically the hard work that, unfortunately, if you haven't already built that prestige, you're really going to want to get into. And honestly, even as someone like myself who's been in the business, there's definitely competitors out there who sell more houses than me. Well, what's the main factor? They're probably putting in more hours than me.
What are they
That's kinda
doing?
what
They're
it comes
calling
out.
people? You
They're
mean cold
calling people. They're building their brand even bigger.
So
And,
do you feel cold calling is like salesy though? Don't you feel like it's a...
it's not fun.
It's not fun. Right, it's not fun. I mean, listen, I'm not trying to say if you're out there doing it that you're wrong. you're not wrong if you're cold calling. So don't make me feel like I'm coming off to say that that's a wrong thing. I'm not 100% fan of cold calling. I never was.
It's
I
the
did
high
it.
hanging fruit,
Right,
so to speak.
right. It's definitely not the low hanging fruit.
It's the
But
high hanging fruit, but when you're a beginner, you got to try to
you got to
pick
do
every
it.
berry
You got
that
to do
there
it.
is out there.
Yeah.
So
So what I'm thinking is if we do cold call maybe one day a week, just to get your feet wet and get you warm, then maybe you'll start to like it. Listen,
the
cold
worst
calling
case
is
scenario with this, though, to speak of it, is it gets you more in tune with your skills speaking about real estate.
right.
And, when
And
you're
then you
cold
wind up
calling
getting
people.
somebody,
Yeah.
and then that gives you the confidence to want to do more.
Yeah. And when you're cold calling people, that's a low risk way to have a conversation with someone about real estate.
Yeah, yeah.
Because when your good buddy or your relative or your friend that is trying to find a realtor is out there and they're a really hot lead, the low hanging fruit,
Yeah.
and you don't have your skills or your game prepared, there's a decent chance that you're going to lose that lead.
Yeah.
So, you don't want that to happen either.
I
That was the money
I
that was
saw,
gonna put
I
in
saw
your
a post on Facebook real quick that said today that the lender didn't know what a realtor posted on Facebook that the lender didn't know what a commitment letter is. So, these things are still happening in this market. If you don't know what a commitment letter is, you need to exit the business. I will, I will walk you, I will help you walk to the door because, that is called, you really need a mentor or something, or you just don't belong.
Get out of the business or get serious.
Or get
One or the
serious, right? The commitment letter is the be-all, end-all of the deal. If you don't know what that is, then I don't know what you're doing here. So I just wanted to throw that in there because I was reading that on the way here, and I'm like, this is great stuff. If you
What a
don't know-
brutal scenario that
Right,
must have been.
Right. So, all right. So, what's going to happen to home prices in 2024?
I think we're going to see a small increase.
Small.
I think we're going to see. Well, once again, this comes back to the crystal ball thing. There's going to be a large question that's going to happen. I think that most people see the writing on the wall that there's a decent chance that we're going to see some kind of economic downturn in 2024.
Okay. So that's called a recession.
We could use the word. We could use that term.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So when recessions happen, certain things, at least in our experience in time, the timeline that we're talking about, certain things tend to happen. Usually, credit gets tighter, but banks tend to cut rates, and jobs start getting lost.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a fine line of finding that combination between jobs getting lost, credit tightness, and lowering rates, because there is a lot of pent-up demand out there. So when we see rates start getting lower, especially with this lower inventory, I think that's going to create a serious boom. But people also get frightened when there's recessions, right?
Yeah.
So if we see a recession in 2024, I could see the first 2 quarters or whenever this recession first starts happening, I could see us seeing a slight reduction in prices because demand kind of starts wavering. Rates haven't really started dropping yet. In that scenario, people are really scared. There's a lot of people out there who still believe a market crash in the real estate market is coming.
I mean, what he's
I'm not a
explaining right
believer
now
in that,
is I feel like we're already in one.
Yeah.
I hate to say.
Yeah. I mean,
You know,
I'm not a huge believer that we're going to see '08 all over again. It's just the fundamentals don't seem to be there.
Yeah. We don't want to see '08 again.
But that scares people, and that will shrink demand a little bit. So I think we could see a small reduction in prices whenever that recession does hit.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they start cutting rates, I think we're going to see it flip. Almost like when the pandemic did happen. Who knows the exact trajectory of how it will go. But let's take the pandemic, for example. Demand shrunk to like nothing. No business was getting done right when the pandemic got hit. The stock market crashed. And then as soon as the Fed came into the rescue, you saw not only housing prices go insane, but you also saw the stock market make all new highs.
Yeah.
And that's kind of tends to be the case. I mean, rates dictate a lot of market in everything. It doesn't matter if it's real estate, doesn't matter if it's commercial businesses, it doesn't matter if it's the stock market, it doesn't matter if it's tech.
Yeah.
When there's lower rates, it's a lot easier to expand. And when there's higher rates, it's a lot harder to expand. So
I'm going to test him next, and this is a good question for. Actually, this is not a question, but it is a question because we're going to see if he knows what I'm talking about. Because my daughter says that he doesn't know what he's talking about, right? When I ask this question, but a true professional will be able to answer this question.
are we live right now, by the way?
We are live right now.
Okay.
I didn't shock you. Did
I was no, I wasn't
Okay.
sure because I know we cut for a second. I wasn't sure if we got back on.
No, we're live. We're live. So, but you're doing good. You're fine. I'm talking anyway, so you're good. So, what is market share grabbing? Okay,
Market share
grabbing. It's a line that I heard today. I'm on every podcast there is before I do my own here, right? And it jumped out at me, and yes, they did grant me to use it. So
it has to do with like going to the grocery store and grabbing stuff
That's
off
what my daughter
the
said,
shelves, right?
She said, what are you talking about, market share? What are we grabbing? Don't you get arrested if you're grabbing stuff, Dad?
We're grabbing toilet paper like
exactly.
the pandemic.
Right. So this is not what we're talking about, right?
No.
Market share grabbing at a time of December of 2024. What does that mean in this market right now?
I feel like it kind of is an answer that we somewhat already went over.
Yeah.
It's the hard work, it's the marketing, and it's the brand awareness. For me, I mean, that answer is going to be different for every single person because if there's one thing I've learned while being in the real estate industry, is there is 1,000 ways to play this game.
Yeah.
There is not one way to play this game. There's not one size fits all. And in all reality, that's why a lot of people like this business because they can tune it to their lives. They can fine tune this business to make it work for them and what's important to them.
Yeah.
So that answer is not going to be a one size fits all answer. But if you ask me, like someone who's been in the business, they already have, the people in their pipeline. They already have the people who call them. I think that the answer for market share grabbing is awareness.
Yeah.
Brand recognition,
Especially
marketing.
now. Education. Educating, attacking the streets to get your name out.
Getting
there,
your name out there. Visibility is key.
Yeah. I mean, that leads me to, Tori runs a team, right? So he runs a Schroff group. I deal with a lot of teams. Like, a lot of the loan officers that I've met and done business with in my time all started their own teams like Tori. Like, when we worked with Tori in the beginning, he was only just a sole guy on his own, right? And then every year he would call me and say, listen, I'm bringing on another guy onto my team, or a girl or whoever it may be onto my team. And, they're really good. They're sharp. And I always knew that he wasn't just going to bring on anybody off the street. He would vet them. He would put them through his own process of who he wanted. And, so building a team right now, what's your piece of advice to your team right now I guess what's your piece of advice on building a team right now? Is it still even worth it in the current market? And then, your piece of advice now that the guys that you still have on your team, because a lot of them are jumping ship, to keep them with you.
Yeah, shout out to Adam Wright, a killer.
Adam
in the
is
streets.
a great guy. Shout out to Adam Wright, no doubt.
Yeah, big
Sharp
player for me.
Yeah.
Incredible agent, growing every day. Love to see it. And the question comes down to what would I tell them or what would I say to building a team?
Right. Like, what do you think right now? Is it?
That's really your answer right there. Find you a bunch of Adam Wrights.
Yeah, which is not easy.
Make sure you pick the right people to put on your team. The people you work with are your strongest weapon for sure.
But this is very tough to find people like that.
Yes.
I've weeded through people.
But don't just try to build just to build. That's another thing that's important to talk about when it comes to building a team. Don't think, the biggest army wins. That's not really the best way to do it, especially if you're taking on more overhead, you're taking on more expenses, you're trying to build something. Well, if you build things with the wrong building blocks, your castle is going to come falling down.
Sure.
You got to build with the right building blocks. So there requires a little bit of patience with that. You definitely don't want to hire the wrong people. So if you are going to build a team right now, I would say really, really be selective and pick those people who are hungry, they're ferocious, they're ready to get after it. They've got good people skills. They can talk to people. They can understand concepts.
Do you think that the number one thing that a person needs in this business is to learn how to talk to people?
100%.
Okay.
Well,
I mean, it doesn't matter.
a little bit of both. People skills is big.
Okay.
People skills is big.
I
but
think to me that's number one. I'm with you.
probably number one, but 2 and 3 are pretty important too. Product knowledge,
Okay.
understanding houses, understanding how they work, how they're built, how much it costs to do this, how much it costs to do that, looking at different things, knowing what the problems are, knowing how to solve them, knowing the loans, knowing all that. So you need to know product knowledge.
Yep.
And you also need to understand market and economics.
Okay.
Because when you do talk to people, yeah, it's great to have great people skills, but if you don't know what you're talking about, you're just spewing garbage.
I mean, you can look as good as you want. You can act.
And you
sharp.
might even get some business, but you're not going to help people.
You're not going to help people once you open your mouth, right? Because you're not going to know what you're talking about. And people have to like you. I mean, this is, I can't teach that in this business. Like, there's a lot of loan officers or realtors who just don't speak, right? And it's not a kind of business where you can't speak. Like, you have to have a personality. You got to be able to speak to people. You got to look them dead in the eye. You got to be personable, right? You got to be friends with them. Like, this is not, this is not sales 101. Like, and I go back to this computer stuff nowadays where the computers are talking for people. They don't like that. People want to hear you talk. They want to hear your sincerity. They want to know it's coming from you. They want to know you. Most of these people who buy houses and do mortgages through you want to be your friend. Believe it or not.
Absolutely. And a lot of them do become your friends.
They become your friends.
There's people I've met through the business that I'll probably know for 20, 30, 40 years.
There you go. Point. It's a lifelong
those conversations will continue to happen. I speak to past clients all the time, and I don't just speak to them because, hey, what's going on with your house? No, we have genuine conversations.
Yeah. You got to have a personality. It's tough to teach nowadays. I think, a lot of it is texting and emailing nowadays, which I understand that saves me time too. Sometimes I don't like to get on the phone or talk to people face to face, but I think you really have to do it in order to succeed in this business. You must be able to talk to people. That's it. 100%. Right. So, so all this, I hear you guys have to start justifying yourself on what is a realtor, right? So justify yourself, your job to your clients now, even more now than ever.
Yeah.
Right? So
definitely.
Why? What's going on here? Where it's turned into the fact that people, I guess, are not trusting?
I think it's a combination of things. I think the most negative facet of that is there's a lot of bad actors in this business, unfortunately. Every time there's a situation where there's a potential lucrative opportunity, the people who are just looking for the money are going to come out of the woodwork.
Okay.
And they're going to try and find it. So when you take a business that deals with some of the most important things that people are going to do in their lifetime, the biggest investment that many people will make in their lifetime, and then you add bad actors to it, you're going to get people who are going to have a bad taste in their mouth because they picked the wrong people to work with.
Right.
And when they pick those people, it ends up in disaster for them.
I think if you're just doing your job and being sincere and doing the work for these people, that's justification enough to say that I am the man for the job. Right?
Yeah.
That you're sincere and you've been in it and you have a track record, you have reviews to prove it. That
Definitely.
Right?
Definitely. You got to lead with your heart with these people. It's not all about money. You're really dealing with people's lives and how it could go in the future for them.
Yeah.
So you really have to lead with your heart. When you see a money-making opportunity, but it's not right for that person, you have to tell them.
Yeah.
Or you at least have to give your opinion to them. I mean, at the end of the day, they make their own decisions.
Yeah.
But you got to be that guy who says this isn't. I don't think that this is a good idea. And sometimes that's hard. But you got to do it. But as far as like your value as a realtor really comes from what we spoke about with the last question. You have to have your product knowledge.
Yeah.
You have to know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
If you're trying to sell a product that you don't know what you're talking about, you're going to hurt people.
Yeah.
So you have to know what you're talking about, and then you have to understand economics. A lot of things that are involved with real estate is economics based.
Yeah.
If you think that you could just know houses and not understand economics, you're also not doing your
Yeah,
job.
you're not doing your job. Right.
Because these people are not only buying a house that they're going to live in, but they're making the biggest investment of their lives.
Yeah.
So even though we're not financial advisors, you got to try your best to put as many hats on as you possibly can.
Yeah.
So those two are the biggest things, and then also just making sure you're not lazy on people, going out there and actually doing the work.
Yeah, which is not easy nowadays because unfortunately a lot of people don't want to work, which is not going to get you anywhere when it comes to to this business. So
And people who've bought and sold houses, if they've done it a couple times or if they've worked with different people, they can probably quickly tell you the difference between someone who's doing their job,
Yeah.
a good realtor and a bad realtor.
Right,
And
right.
and many will tell you that their good realtor was worth their weight in gold. And everyone who's had their bad realtor would be
They know.
telling you how bad of an
they
experience
know.
it was.
Yeah. They
And
don't have any problems telling
yeah.
you that either.
yeah, yeah.
All right, so this question is for the loan officers out there because I know I'm going to do one for you guys because I know you're listening to, and I don't want you to shut off the thing because I just talked about realtors. But all right, so I'm a loan officer, right? I come to you. I don't know you, but I want to get business from you, right? Because I see that you're a successful guy. I know you know what you're doing. All right, I see you on Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff, the Schroff Group. You're waving your pictures of your closed houses, and I know you're doing deals. I even went into that computer system. They told me what you did last year. I know your whole life, right? They look up everything nowadays,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They know everything. Believe me, they recruit me too. So, a lot of refinance loan officers are watching us right now. All they do is refinances. They don't do any purchases, but they've now learned that the shifting of the market has made them jump into the purchase market because there are no deals to be done on the refinance end because the rates have gone up. That is a fact. Now, they're trying to crack into getting realtors and getting business from realtors like yourself. What do I got to do?
I've got two answers for that.
Okay.
The first answer is if you are trying to find somebody who's doing business and you do want to try and go for a bigger dog, you have to find a way to provide value to that person. It doesn't always mean pay to play. It might mean find us a way to do business together that you bring to me that I see as a good opportunity that we can do together and that we can grow together.
Okay.
Work for a reputable company because if no matter how good you are, if your company can't close loans, we don't want to work with you.
Right.
So you got to provide that value. You have to find a way to provide that value.
And the problem is that a lot of loan officers, we don't get many deals on our own. Now, in this day and age, we can generate deals, right? If you can market, and they have things called Facebook ads now. They have things that called Instagram ads and LinkedIn ads, and you could do any type of Google ads and whatever you want to do. You could even market to your own neighborhood and send a postcard out with your own information, and those people hit you back and say, yes, I want to sell my house, and you get it back to a guy like Tori. There are ways that a loan officer can market on their own to drive business to the realtor.
Yeah, I think there's a better way. Well, I like the ideas of stuff like this, where you're like doing a podcast or you're doing a first-time home buyer seminar or something like this, and invite somebody to do something with you that might generate leads. But if you ask my honest opinion, how I would try to be if I was a loan officer and how I would tackle the business or try and get into the business, it wouldn't really be to go for that bigger player. I'd be trying to find the Adam Wrights of the world, the new guys in the business who are hungry, who want to grow something together.
Okay.
I think that's the
They're
better way
easier
to succeed.
to build a relationship with versus
Much
your
easier.
big, we call them whales, right? The whales of the business that do all the business. And
It's like getting the first round draft picks.
right.
And
then to get them,
and starting from the ground floor and building up.
you got to do that. Right. So, I'm sure you get hit all day, every day, right? I mean, how many offers do you get a week from
It's
loan
frustrating.
officers? I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know.
But that should be a testament to you because
Yes.
obviously
Right.
we always do business
still doing
together.
business.
I shut them down every time.
But it is frustrating, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's very frustrating, especially because a lot of them come with no real value that they're bringing. One of the big things that a lot of them are doing now that's like the worst thing ever is they'll hire a VA and they'll be
I
like,
know, I know.
this person some big lender
Yes.
wants to speak to you.
Right,
They
right,
they
right.
want to talk to you about opportunities. Do you
Yeah.
have a time to talk to them? It's like, why?
It's like, who is he? God?
Clearly I wasn't important enough for them to call me
God has
themselves.
sent me down and said, "Would you like to speak to him?"
Yeah.
He has wise words to say to you. And then when you get God on the
It's
phone,
actually offensive.
yeah, it is offensive, very. It's like, okay, then you get him on the phone, and they're like, okay, you got me on the phone now. Your VA set this big appointment up, that had to be done at a specific time. What do you got for me?
Yeah.
Well, I was just wanted to see if you wanted to do business. If you have anybody that you wanted me to pre-approve for you.
Yeah, I already got
Right?
somebody who does that for me. Sorry.
I mean, that's what that's all about, obviously, as you
Yeah.
know. But that's good that you brought that up because that's another thing out there. I'm an old school guy. I email people. I still text people. I have Anthony, my new loan officer on my team, who's been sending direct messages on Instagram and sending direct messages on Facebook on top of texting, to get these people to somewhat respond instead of playing the game of hi, I'm such and such, and Alex Taberne would like to speak to you. No, I would never make a loan officer do that for me, ever. I am still on the front line attacking myself. That's it. If you're not doing that, and I know he's doing it too, to get business, you got a problem. You have to stay. You can't forget where you came from, and all of a sudden now I need a VA to make those phone calls for me. That's a joke.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, credit scores are a big one right now. The average realtor feels that what credit score should we be allowed to go down to, right? So I get a lot of questions on, what's the credit score requirements for borrowers right now? They'll send me somebody with a 620 and say, I don't think you're going to be able to do this. Little do you know, you could go down.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, me and you have done deals.
We've done them down to 580.
580, right? So, 580 is that key number, which most lenders will go down to on an FHA deal.
Yeah.
How many of you have had under 620? I mean, you've done them before where,
Yeah. I did them a lot more earlier in the business, but we still close them.
Yeah.
It all just depends on the buyer themselves.
You're not the kind of guy that says if it's a 590 or a 600, I don't want to work with them.
No.
There's certain people that are like that.
No, you got to send it out.
you
It's every person out there is different, and for a lot of people, if your credit is down there, a lot of times you probably do have too much hair. Maybe you shouldn't be buying a house.
Sure.
But that's not everybody, and
Right.
some of these people, they had a rough go. Some things happened, and it turned them into a situation where maybe they lost track of some bills or something like that, and it really hurt their credit score. But at the same time, they've been working on getting it back up. They saved a little bit of money. They have a good job. They have a steady income. They're not losing their job anytime soon, and they're looking for a place for their family.
Yeah. That's good. I think I don't shy away from a 590 or a 580. I mean, we don't. You got to give everybody a shot. You're right.
Yeah.
Some people probably don't need to buy a house. I mean, they're in a situation where they've never paid a bill pretty much in their life from what we see sometimes, unfortunately. Yeah. And then they want to buy a house. That's a problem. But if you've been in a jam in the past and you just so happen to have a lower credit score and you've been working on getting it up, let's take a look. A 600 credit score, a 620 credit score is not the death of you. It's not the death of Torrey either. He knows we'll work the deal.
It doesn't work. It doesn't hurt to inquire either. Just see what happens.
Right. What do you think about those grants out there? Those first-time buyer grants.
When it was at the highest point of the market where there was bidding wars on everything, it was somewhat of a death sentence unless you were able to tell someone, look, we need to find something that has been sitting for a while, the diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
Just because trying to get one of those offers accepted was really tough. But now that we're seeing a much softer market, I think it's for the people that it's meant for, I think it could really be a great opportunity for them.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about
that's because it's a softer market, like you said.
Yeah.
And it's easier to get an offer accepted with that grant. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not a program for everyone though. And that's one of those things that you really want to put out there. If you're someone who does have really strong buying power, if you're someone who has saved up that cash, if you're someone who doesn't need that money, you can put yourself in a much better leveraged position while making an offer by not using it.
Sure.
And also, using a better loan product for yourself that gives you more options in the future.
I mean, there's 3% down products out there, people, that are very good products. They give you a low interest rate, low PMI. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that can you do a 3% down program? Of course you can. I mean, we have a lot of them. I'm not talking about FHA. I'm talking about conventional. They have 3% down programs where the rates are really good, the PMI is low, and it's something that you might want to look into. Options is what I would say as you move into. Like me and Tori, we've compared a lot of clients, FHA versus conventional, 3.5% down versus 3% down. What makes more sense? You got to do that. With
and sometimes it's surprising, as we learned, not long ago.
Right, that's why I brought it up. Because, we learned that FHA was giving such a low interest rate versus this conventional buyer who was putting, what was he going to do, 20% down?
Yeah, he was going to do 20% down.
He was going to do 20% down conventional. We had him at 3.5% down FHA. We were comparing both, and it worked out where the rate was so low on the FHA that it beat out the conventional with the 20% down. Then we were going to do it with 5% down conventional, and it still beat it out. Overall, it looked like the FHA was the way to go. Is that what happened there?
Keep more money in your pocket and invest it in another way.
There you go. Yeah. And it was extremely surprising to Tori. It was even surprising to me because the guy had an 800
It was blowing my mind.
But the rate, I think, was like in the 6s on the FHA and the high 7s on the conventional. It was over a point spread on the rate, which made up such a big difference that me and him, our heads were spinning because it was like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
But that's this market, and those are the options you got to lay out for your clients. Because guess what? If you don't do it, and you don't have a realtor who says, okay, let's look at both options, and he's open-minded to it, and he's not just saying conventional, because the FHA deal is going to work out better for you overall in the long run, so be it. Let's go FHA. He's not going to. You can't do that. Like, you got to give them the options and see which way they want to go. Yes, conventional is a stronger offer if it gets accepted, but overall, we don't want to put them in a bad situation where they could have gotten it, because they will find out that it would have been a better situation, and you'll look like the bad guy in the long run. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yep.
I'm sure you feel that way.
Yeah.
Right.
And you got to let people make their own decisions too.
Yeah. Let them make their own decisions.
We're not the decision makers. We help you make educated decisions.
Right. And look at his face. I mean, does that face lie there? I mean, come on. He's telling the truth this time, right?
No.
No, every time. I'm joking. So listen, let's start it. Let's go last one for the predictions for 2024. Where are we going in Tori Schroff's mind by the end of 2024, December of 2024? I'll bring you back on the podcast, right?
Yeah.
I'll put the date down here.
We'll see how we did on our predictions.
Right? We'll see how we were on the predictions. What do you think? 1 year from now, I'm sitting on the couch with you here, and we're filming this, and you what happened?
My prediction for the end of 2024 is small growth in prices.
Okay.
Small growth in prices, depending on how fast things start happening. I think that the writing's on the wall for how it's going to go. Hopefully I'm right. I could be wrong. The timeline is a little bit of a question.
Okay.
So my opinion is small growth through 2024, but I think we're going to squeak out a little growth.
Okay. And are we in a somewhat of a happier place at this time next year versus where we are right now? Like,
I actually think we're going to be. So this is an interesting answer to this.
Okay.
I think we're either going to be in the worst place or the best place. I don't think we're going to be in the middle.
Okay. So it's going to be either really bad or really good.
That's my opinion.
It's not just going to be a level. It's funny you said that. Somebody told me that they think that 2025 is going to be really bad. That 2024 is going to be a good year because the rates will come down. And then this inflation thing is going to really catch up. We're in such bad debt in this country. This guy's like an economist. I saw him at a networking event, and I thought he was nuts, but he sounded like he was really knew his stuff, like he's one of those New York guys. And he said, listen, Alex, you're gonna go back into a good place in 2024. You're gonna do deals again, and everybody's gonna feel good because the rates are gonna go down. And then these numbers are really gonna show that this country is in serious debt by the end of 2024. And the inflation is going to then shoot through the ceiling again. And at that point, 2025, we're going to head into some seriously high rates. Okay?
I think that could happen, but I just don't see how we can fix our inventory problem. And especially when we're dealing with such high inflation, even though economically and how much business we're doing
Yeah.
might be not good.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be really, really tough to bring those home prices down. And I think what's going to make the recession feel real to people is that they can't afford anything. And that could include a house.
Right. Which is going to drive things a little bit haywire. You know, so that could happen.
Yeah.
I'm hoping this guy's wrong. You know, after I talked to this guy, I wanted to leave and never talk to him again. Like he asked for my number and I said no.
Hey, who knows? As I said, there's no crystal ball.
He's like,
out
dude,
there.
you
I
want to
can't
do?
answer.
He's like trying to network with me at the end. Like, you want to do something? No, I'm not doing business with you.
I can't
I don't know you. You're crazy. All right, don't even talk to me again. Lose my number. You never saw me. I never heard you.
You're killing my optimism.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I'm on a high vibe, and you're sending me home, telling me that we're all going to die in 2025. That's not happening. All right.
Yeah. Another interesting thing to think about all these questions, though, that could throw a huge, huge thing into 2024 is it's an election year. In 2024.
I have that circled.
They can't let the market crash in 2024.
What I've been saying.
How do you let the market crash in 2024 if you want to win the presidency next year?
You don't. Everything's got to get rosier. Everything is going to be looking a lot better than it did because it's an election year. I mean, they're not going to, you won't vote for somebody who's letting the market crash. They want to see the market going up, so they're going to vote for somebody who is making everything looks great. And then once they get elected, we go back.
And then maybe that's why he's calling for 2025.
I don't know.
I mean, he could be
right.
right.
He had something behind that. That is crazy. So listen,
it's
I
hard.
want to thank you for coming on, man.
Yeah, well,
You did a
thanks for
great
having
job.
me.
This guy, smoother
I had
than
a great
smooth.
time.
Look at him. Didn't flinch once. Never nothing. I mean, it wasn't a question that he couldn't answer, right?
I hope we could do it again.
We're going to do it again. We're going to bring you back on. All right. We're going to let some of these predictions set in first, right? We may be in a refi boom, and I might not be able to do this because I'll be working in my house for 24/7. But we're gonna keep doing. I'm going to bring you back on. And,
all right.
I appreciate you coming on, man, because this is the kind of episode that people want to hear. So.
All right.
Thanks, brother. I will see you guys next week. Another episode on your way. I'm sure we'll have somebody as captivating as Tori. I'm not sure if we can, do that, but we're going to try it anyway. And I look forward to seeing you then, guys. Thanks again.